Season 5 of COD Mobile has arrived, which means it's time for the new top 10 guns in the game. We've actually got changes to our top 3 for the first time in a long time. So hopefully this is helpful for you guys. If it is, make sure to drop a like down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're getting so close to that 1,000,000 subscriber mark. Big shout out to COD Mobile for sponsoring this video. If you haven't already, you can download the game with the link in the description. We're going to go ahead and hop into it. First up, we've got our honorable mentions. A lot of this is going to be the same as last season, as there weren't really a ton of buffs that impacted guns in a way that would really put them inside the top 20, let alone the top 10. We do once again have the SKS, one of the best long-range weapons in the game, which has slowly phased its way out of our top 10 guns just because its rate of fire is not fast enough to keep up with some of the other alternatives. It can still one-tap from anywhere on the map if you hit a headshot, and is probably still the most consistent two-tap gun in the game, but lack of mobility, heavy hit flinch, and slow rate of fire make it difficult to use, especially if you're not playing at least 4-finger claw. We've also got the GKS, which has continued to be outshined by the USS9. It's very comparable in a lot of ways, but does have some downsides in that it doesn't 3-tap nearly as consistently. Hopefully, if we ever see a proper nerf to the USS9, the GKS might have a chance at making it into the top 10. Our last honorable mention goes to the Fennec and CX9, which you guys will likely have noticed have dropped out of our top 10 guns. Once again, this is not because these guns got any type of a nerf, it's just because there have been so many alternatives that have crept their way into our top 10 guns that there's not as much need for them to be used, especially because they are such niche weapons that are pretty much solely for close quarters combat. The CX9 is still definitely a great beginner-friendly alternative to some of the other close quarter SMGs with fast rate of fire and minimal recoil. It just doesn't have that same potential time to kill as some of the other options. Coming in at number 10, once again, we have far and away the best sniper in the game in the Tundra. Especially now that Overkill's in the game, it's kind of difficult to not have a sniper somewhere in the top 10 guns, primarily because both snipers and shotguns give you so much potential time to kill advantage in either close range or long range by giving you the ability to one-tap, which automatically beats out any type of fully auto or semi-auto time to kill. Tundra still has the fastest ADS time, rate of fire, and mobility of any bolt action sniper while having the same lethality as just about all the other alternatives. There's still not really any reason to use another sniper, and once again, the only reason that this isn't any higher on our list is because it is a sniper, so it has a little bit of a higher skill gap and is not going to have nearly the same utility in the close range. Going along with our theme of guns that are especially powerful now that we're in the overkill meta, we've got the HSO-405 shotgun. While it did get a rate of fire nerf, there's absolutely no question the HSO is still far and away the most consistent one-tap shotgun in the game, especially when it comes to search and destroy and holding tight angles. This thing's pretty much free kills for anybody that can aim, and to be honest, really easy to use if you're a thumbs player as well, because you don't really need ADS to be able to one-tap consistently. Obviously, the KRM's a very solid alternative to this, having better mobility and rate of fire, but especially when it comes to shotguns, the one-tap consistency takes priority over just about everything else. Much like the Tundra, its utility at other ranges is the biggest reason that it's not any higher. Being very limited to the close range only, I would recommend using both of these guns if you're going to use them in respawns with Overkill. Coming in at number 8, we once again have the XM4 assault rifle. This is another one of those guns that's not going to be nearly as powerful if you don't have the mythic version. That built-in red dot definitely works wonders. With that being said, it's got far from the worst iron sights in the game and is definitely usable with a red dot as well. The XM4 has replaced the Type 19 in the current meta simply because it has better mobility and better handling while having very comparable damage at most ranges. Both very solid flex assault rifles, but the XM4 definitely takes the cake. Coming in at a very similar spot to where it was last season, we have the BP50, which I don't think anybody is sad to see no longer inside of our top 5. The BP50 is definitely still a very solid option with both the 60 round and the 30 round damage magazine, with of course the 60 round not doing quite the same damage, which means that your 4-tap consistency is going to be substantially lower, and the 30 round magazine obviously feeling like the prime BP50, but unfortunately, a 30-round magazine on a gun that fires that fast is going to be very difficult to use by itself. If you're going to rock with it, I would recommend rocking this with Overkill and a longer range alternative. One of the upsides to the BP50 is the fact that the base irons are very solid, so unlike a lot of the mythics in the game, this is one where it's not really a must-have to make it as useful as possible. Its rate of fire does make it very easy to use, so if you are a beginner, this is definitely a solid option, especially with the 60 round. Coming in at number number 6, we have yet another gun that, even though it hasn't been nerfed in what I believe to be years, just simply isn't as strong compared to the rest of the guns because there have been so many strong alternatives added. The HVK with large caliber ammo is definitely still very, very viable, especially whenever you're able to achieve a 3-tap. 2-tap is obviously very niche as it's only whenever you're landing back-to-back headshots. And the 4-tap isn't insanely slow, but just because, like I stated previously, there are so many more consistent alternatives, and the HVK large caliber magazine has so little ammo in it, it is a little bit more difficult to use. This is another gun that I would definitely recommend running with overkill, and the weapon that you run with it kind of depends on how you want to build it out. It's definitely at its strongest in the close range, and I think especially if you're running a long range alternative with it, you don't need to build it out quite as much for bullet spread accuracy, especially with the high BSA build not having the best mobility. Like I said previously, it does have the ability to 2-tap to the head, so in the hands of a really accurate player, it is certainly very lethal, but still lags behind in consistency as compared to our top 5. Coming in at number 5, we have a gun that I believe last season I actually had at number 2, but the more I used it throughout the season, the more I felt like maybe that was a tad too high. The DRH, once again, has not been nerfed at all, but there are so many strong alternatives with better upside that I feel like it's tough to put it any higher than number 5 in the current meta. For the most part, the DRH is strictly a worse USS9, with the only real upside being the fact that it does have better long-range potential, both because of its damage range and its bullet spread accuracy, alongside the fact that it doesn't have bullet speed. It isn't able to 2-tap to the head like the USS9. It has the capability of also 4-tapping in the close range if you land lower body shots, which is obviously a major downside, and being an assault rifle, it also lacks the mobility that you have in the USS9. With that being said, it's still very, very consistent across a lot of different ranges. It's just tough for me to keep putting it next to the USS9 when it gets outgunned in so many different scenarios. Coming in at number 4, we have a gun that obviously leapfrogged the DRH. I think the combination of the gun's potential and the number of different outgun scenarios that it has over the DRH make it a little bit of a better option. In the current meta, we have the Odin. I've kind of gone back and forth on where I would put the Odin in the current meta. The upside obviously being the fact that it can very consistently 2-tap, the downsides being slow rate of fire, bad bullet spread accuracy, high vertical recoil, and the fact that its 2-tap consistency is not nearly as good as that of its marksman counterparts. With that being said, it's got pretty solid irons, a lot of really good blueprints that make it so that you don't necessarily need the mythic version, and at the end of the day, a 2-tap is a 2-tap, and there's not a lot of people that are specialized enough to effectively use weapons like the Type 63, the SKS, and the M1 Grand. The Odin is the 2-tap gun that I would say probably fits the biggest percentage of playstyles compared to those marksman alternatives solely because it is fully automatic. It's seen some very minor nerfs over the past couple of seasons, but it was only to specific attachments. There's no question the Odin will remain a solid gun. There's no question the Odin will remain a solid meta option for the time being. Coming in at number 3 is a gun that prior to this season I felt like was the only weapon that could consistently counter the US9 across a number of different ranges. The Type 63 and its recent counterpart in the M1 Grand have finally given some competition to a very long-lasting meta in the USS9. There's absolutely no question the Type 63 has now replaced the SKS as the long-range king in COD Mobile. Even though its 2-tap consistency isn't quite as good, the fact that it can be built out a number of different ways because of its attachments, the faster rate of fire, the better mobility, clean iron sights, there is absolutely no question the Type 63 is taken over, and I feel like both what we've seen in ranked and in competitive COD Mobile can vouch for that. The M1 Grand's definitely a much more niche weapon because it's really dependent on you having a crazy fast trigger finger. It can be built out to have a way faster rate of fire than the Type 63. The issue is there's not a ton of people that can actually tap the screen fast enough to make up for that difference in the fact that it does have substantially worse 2-tap consistency, and is definitely one that takes some getting used to. It's just gonna have to be on the back of a newer skill set because this is not really the type of weapon that we've ever seen before in COD Mobile. With that being said, we've seen more and more people starting to master weapons like the Type 63 and the SKS, and there's no doubt in my mind we'll start to see a similar thing happen for the M1 Grand as well. Coming in at number 2, we finally have some competition for the USS9, the newest gun in COD Mobile, the VM VMP, which just got added to the game, looks like it will finally give the USS some competition, and here's why. So you could probably make the argument that instead of being Fennec 2.0, the VMP might actually be Fennec 3.0. First off, the VMP is basically the Fennec, but better in just about every way. The one upside that the Fennec has over the VMP is that it does have faster rate of fire. The downside of that being that it's almost impossible to 4-tap consistently with the Fennec, whereas the VMP has a base damage in the first range of 25 damage, which means unless you're hitting all leg shots, you are guaranteed to 4-tap with it. The thing is, despite the fact that the Fennec has a substantially faster rate of fire than the VMP, the damage profile in the VMP more than makes up for it, and then on top of that, outperforms the Fennec in pretty much every other category. So while the Fennec has a faster rate of fire, the damage profile makes it so that it's pretty much a guaranteed 4-tap for the VMP in the first damage phase, giving you a time to kill of around 186 milliseconds, which is faster than pretty much every other 3 or 4-tap weapon in the game. On top of that, it's also got a very strong second damage phase that will still allow you to 4-tap relatively consistently, and its damage doesn't drop off nearly as heavily in the third and fourth damage phases as the Fennec does. And if you look at the side-by-side comparison, you guys will probably understand why. Like I said, unless you're landing all leg shots in the first damage phase, you're going to 4-tap pretty much every single time and have the opportunity to 4-tap as well out to 21 meters if you are landing chest and hand shots. And like I said before, the VMP outperforms the Fennec in pretty much every other category. Because it has Black Ops attachments, it has way faster ADS time, it's got faster movement speed, faster sprint speed, faster strafe speed, faster sprint to fire, bigger magazine capacity, less hit flinch, more bullet impact, better bullet spread accuracy, and with the build that I'm using right here, it pretty much has identical recoil. The fact that it has a rapid fire perk obviously is a huge upside for this weapon, and having really strong barrel attachments like the heavy barrel that gives you 40% damage range, 40% bullet speed, silence, and vertical recoil with only a 13% downside that can easily be compensated for in other attachments is a big reason why the VMP is my new number 2 gun in the game. And now moving on to number 1, it wouldn't be a top 10 guns video in 2025 if we didn't have the USS9. The USS9 once again did not receive any type of nerf this season, and even though it got a bullet spread nerf last season, I don't think anybody would say that it made a significant impact on the amount of people using it or the gun's lethality. And while I do still have the USS9 at the number 1 gun in the game, I think there is a possibility that we could see that change before the end of the season, just depending on the consistency with which people are able to dominate with the VMP. It's going to have the potential to outkill the USS9 in the close to mid range. The upsides to the USS being the fact that it will have more consistency in the mid range, and obviously at long range it will still completely dominate the USS9, and in mid to long range it will still completely dominate the VMP. The comparison between the two is really closer to that of a true SMG compared to a flex assault rifle, except in this case the flex assault rifle is actually an SMG. If you guys get a chance to try out the VMP, let me know if you think it could move into our number 1 spot. That's gonna wrap things up for the video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, drop a like down below, subscribe if you haven't already, get us to that 1,000,000, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.